jetzt Richtung USA. Steht die Leitung? Okay, super. Könnt hier sitzen bleiben oder an eure Plätze. Is John already available? That we switch to English? Hey, John. Good morning. How is it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So you miss here a full audience. You miss many people who are online. So everybody is watching you. I hope this is okay for you.
Yeah, very good.
Great. So let me, in a few sentences, introduce you. John Yablonsky, I met him a couple of years ago in Pennsylvania. He is responsible for supply chain management, and he's responsible also at the design group for business for relationship management, solution architecture, and also the delivery director at this household article producer who is producing also worldwide like our other companies here from the industry and from the distribution part. He studied at the Penn University, Information of Science and Technology. He's director, or was director of ERP application at CSS. He was later then the senior director of business application at CSS. And I think it's great that we get a little overview, John, what is going on in the States, what is going on in your global business. Is the supply chain still running, or is it running again after the pandemic, after the lockdown in the United States? And maybe you can also ask us who will become the next president of the United States of America. John, it's your turn.
Sounds good. So supply chain is still running. I'll share my screen here as soon as it's enabled. But supply chain is still running. There was obviously some delays in the supply chain, but it was never completely shut down. So there was a lot of businesses that were able to do whatever they could for the supply chain and help with the pandemic wherever they could. But while a lot of smaller businesses did shut down, a lot of the larger businesses continued active. While not 100%, they continued active throughout the entire pandemic. So businesses like ours did, anything we could to stay active and to help the entire supply chain. So I'll talk a little bit though about Design Group and what we do to get started. So we're a consumer products company. We sell a lot of different products, and while no one may recognize the name CSS Industries or Design Group even, they probably recognize a lot of the brands that we look to distribute.
John, how is it at CSS at the moment, especially when we have a look into the United States? Are many of your employees doing home office, or are you still coming back now to the office?
Yeah.
How is it running?
Yeah, so we're running. We are still mostly working from home, the entire operation. Our manufacturing and distribution is they've been obviously in the facilities the entire time. The only time any facility shut down was if it was a government mandate. There were a few state mandates to shut down facilities. They shut down at most for about 1 week, one business week. And we did our part to be able to reopen the facilities and get people back to work purely on a volunteer basis, but we had a lot of volunteers. So, we did everything we could to keep people employed, having an income. We did not have multiple layoffs through the pandemic. We really did try to keep, everyone employed and to keep the supply chain running. On the back office operations, everyone moved to a home office, everyone that could. And even now, we are still actively working from home. While our office locations did start to reopen, it's not 100%. We're at somewhere between a 10 and 25% employee back in the office, again, purely at a volunteer basis, only for those employees that absolutely need to be back in the office. Most people do not need to be in the office. We really learned that going through the pandemic. So, prior to March, we were not a work from home or a remote workforce friendly organization. We were not ready. And we really pulled together very quickly about a week before, about the second week in March, right before we really started lockdown and everything. IT pulled together, the business pulled together, and just very quickly did everything we could to be able to support a remote workforce. And it was very effective. It was extremely effective at not only being able to continue the operation and to still be able to support the manufacturing and distribution facilities that were still going in, but we were more productive in a lot of areas. And we really attribute that to the employees being happier. So, you know, it was not an easily comparable chart that we could look at and say, you know, it's the same number of sales and it's the same number of purchasing, and there's less incidents. Obviously, there were fewer sales, there were fewer transactions, but on a scaled basis, what we saw was there were less issues. Customer satisfaction was higher, and our employees were higher. They seemed to be more engaged, and I think it was very successful to the point where as we are allowed to reopen, we really question, do we need to reopen? Because obviously there's a cost to being in the office. And those costs are much less when we can support a remote workforce. So some of our facilities, some of our back office locations that we had, we did not reopen them. We chose to continue allowing those locations to work from home on a permanent basis because of the success rate. And obviously the reduced costs play into that, but there was no reason to go back.
Okay, I have another question, John.
Sure.
I got the understanding, what you mentioned is that the supply chain was not that much disrupted as it sometimes looked here in Europe when we have a look into the United States. How was the inbound process? Did you receive the goods on time from Asia, from the production facilities? And especially also when we see the infection rate in the US is much higher than here in Europe, but also the drayage, was it running pretty much smoothly also in your DC and also for the distribution into your stores and shops and to the consumer?
Yes. So there was some disruption. So there was absolutely disruption, and everything was a little slower. Everything was a little delayed. Some areas more than others. We were obviously down in sales. You know, we're still down, but we're not down as much as we could have been, right? So we're down about 12% overall. That's not bad, all things considered. For logistics and inbound deliveries, everything was impacted. So, you know, shipments to port, we were several weeks behind. And then the moving of the inventory into the domestic facilities was obviously also impacted. The local domestic carriers, everybody was behind, and it was about several weeks behind. Mm-hmm. But it was never stopped. So we adjusted by really looking at the inventory planning and looking at the dates, the arrival dates and the ship dates from our customers. Since there was an end-to-end impact, just because the inbound shipments were delayed, it wasn't detrimental because the customers who were expecting those inbound shipments, you know, they were also closing their distribution centers. So there was no one there to receive them in anyway. So really it was the ripple effect from one end of the supply chain to the other. You know, even though shipments were delayed coming in, our DCs closed for about a week. And then we went back, when we reopened, you know, it was only about 30% labor force. So obviously inbound receiving was not as fast as it was when it was 100% labor. You know, outbound shipping was not as fast as it was when it was 100%. However, it wasn't just us, right? It was the large retailers, it was the Walmarts, and everyone that was still open through the pandemic, they had the same thing. You know, if they closed their distribution centers, when they reopened, it wasn't at 100% capacity. So they were slower to receive it in, and they were slower to get it to shelf. And since they were impacted, the other end of those inbound shipments coming from the suppliers and coming across the water, everyone basically was impacted at the same time. So everyone was able to work through it. And I think that's really what we saw.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, now we see the crafts. That should be the first slide for you.
Sure, it absolutely is. I can talk to this if you'd like. And again, these are really to talk, just to show everybody what our products are and see if they recognize them.
Okay.
You know, our craft design group, it's a creative consumer products company, right? So our craft includes sewing patterns, ribbon, trim, needle arts, and perler beads. A little bit of everything that, you know, again, when you talk about the brands, people often recognize Offray and Dimensions and Boy and Perler and McCall's and Simplicity. They're all our products, and they're in multiple stores.
Okay. Shall we go ahead?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to go to the gift
No, we are
slide,
to the gifts. Yes.
Okay. I see up there. Yeah. Gift. In the gift category, it's C.R. Gibson is one of our largest gift segments. C.R. Gibson and philosophy. It's all about journals, but we also do baby, party, stationery, all sorts of gifts, memory banks, tableware, glasses, calendars, just a wide, extensive range of products. In the seasonal, we have Paper Magic Group does Valentine's. We have Eureka Back to School, Wally's Decor, and a large Christmas and all occasion gift wrap, gift tins, tissues, bags, bows. Just a whole bunch of seasonal products around holiday gift packaging, designed to make people's lives and celebrations and gift exchanging, you know, more memorable.
Okay.
So with all of these products, just to touch on, you know, there's a lot of products in our supply chain. So when I talk about us not being, you know, overly, we were absolutely impacted by the slow deliveries and slow distribution. And our supply chain is quite large. We have a global operation. If you want to go on to the next slide, it kind of touches on this. We have a global operation. We have sourcing offices in Hong Kong and Shanghai, back office locations, including finance, sales, marketing, order management, distribution facilities in the UK and Australia, as well as the US, and then multiple manufacturing here in the US, as well as in India and Mexico. We have over 50,000 active SKUs that we're distributing across the supply chain. We're servicing 210 stores for about 11,000 customers in 80 countries. And we have about 1,000 partners that we do business with, and over 350 suppliers of the product. So, you know, that's just to kind of touch on the extensive size of the supply chain, who we're working with, who we're in business with, and who we're working with to really service from the back office as far as customer service, AR/AP, finance goes.
Okay. So we have the state of the business.
So through the pandemic, yeah, and we really already talked about this. This is really about, you know, what we did. We had stores obviously impacted. A lot of our small independent stores were closed, but it was the larger retailers that remained active. Certain large, like a Hobby Lobby or Joann's, they closed all their stores at a certain point, and then they started to slowly reopen. But the Walmarts, the grocery, the home improvement stores, they were all identified as as critical businesses, and they remained open during the pandemic. So we remained open to help, facilitate them remaining open. We did play a part in making, face masks and shields and anything we could to help. So, that was just very small though. While our individual products are not essential, no one needs perler beads or sewing needles. While those products are not essential, our impact to the supply chain was, because the stores that remained open, they did still see sales in all of these product categories. So their sales helped them remain operable, helped them keep their employees earning an income. And our purchasing those from our suppliers helped our suppliers stay open and stay active. So we're kind of right in the middle of that supply chain of sourcing and then distributing to the retailers. We felt, and we did talk to the larger retailers, the Walmarts, the Joanns, to understand our impact and the criticality of us being able to stay open and being able to help them stay open. So it was very important to us to be able to do that, to be able to help across the entire end-to-end supply chain as much as we could.
Okay.
Just to touch on our order fulfillment process, we do a lot of sourcing. So we do a lot of import sourcing from Asia and other countries as well. But our customer places an order with us, we turn around, we source it, and a lot of times we'll do direct shipments direct to the customer's facilities. But we also do the shipments to our domestic distribution centers. We'll then we'll distribute from there. A lot of it's based on if it's seasonal or if it's replenishment. So if it's a replenishment order, we're bringing them into our distribution centers, and then we're replenishing on a weekly basis. If it's seasonal or a one-time shipment, a lot of times we're just shipping directly to the customer, to the end retailer, to their distribution centers. Both of these were obviously impacted with the pandemic, with the delays in inbound receiving and distribution. What we started to see though was our customers, the retailers, coming to us more and more and starting to talk about other ways to improve sales, to keep sales active. A lot of drop ship. So drop ship became a very big discussion with multiple retailers, as well as resellers who are doing a lot of online sales. So we started to talk about those, and we are really just getting into them. But they're going to play a big part as we look forward and coming out of this. To really just touch on the order fulfillment process, I talked about how many customers, how many SKUs, how many suppliers and partners we're working with. In this order fulfillment process, it's critical for us to be able to manage our cash flow. So this was very tightly watched, very tightly managed through the pandemic. And in working from home, things had to change. People had to change the way, the back office people had to change the way they interacted. So, our payables team and our accounts receivables team, a lot of the times they're used to printing things and walking over to their printer and being able to get it off the printer and scanning it and then sending it somewhere, whether it's email or fax or walking it to the mailroom. None of that was able to happen because everyone was at home and they didn't have the large printers and scanners that we had in the office. So we really needed to adapt and become much more digital and rely on our computers and anything we could to minimize work and exchange data more quickly. this was very important for the order fulfillment process, and it goes back to, prior to March, I said we were not really work from home friendly. We put a plan together to get there very quickly. So OSCA was obviously a huge part of that digital process and our enablement to be much more successful. Everything that OSCA is said to do as far as minimizing email, improving communications, it does. And from our visibility, from our inventory planning, from our communications with the suppliers, OSCA played a huge role in that. It allowed us to really just embrace the tool and not rely on the crutches of having the printer in the other room and having the mail room active and being able to pick up the phone and call people. The business was really able to use the tool to exchange the data, to manage their documentation, to have that visibility they needed without relying on being in the office. So it was really huge. OSCA played a pretty big part of the entire, working with our suppliers, working with our overseas sourcing offices, and working from home across the globe.
Okay.
And really to wrap it up, it's our focus on continued improvement is just to look at everything that we learned these last couple months and continue improving on it. Working from home went from 0 to maybe 75%. We're not at 100%, and we can get better. So we're going to look at anything we can do to continue to improve that. We're going to focus on the new segments. I mentioned drop ship and a lot of online. So we're going to be working on moving towards a model that allows us to distribute direct to consumer a lot more efficiently with a reduced workforce, because we're still not back at 100%. But these are all small projects that we have in place. We're working with our retailers. We're working with our partners now to improve on this. And this is allowing us, I believe, truly to not see the type of impact that many other businesses did see, and to not see the type of impact that we could have seen. Being down, under 20%, I think it is great. Obviously, we were in the very beginning thinking we would be much more effective, and we were very lucky to only be impacted the amount we were. It could have obviously been much worse. But I think the tools that we had, our partners, working with our partners, and truly partners, not just people we're doing business with, but people that we can call up and talk and look for advice and put pieces together with, working with our partners and having the tools like OSCA in place, allow that back office to be really successful to supporting the entire operation, the entire supply chain, and to helping us engage in as much as we could to play our part. So our plan is to really keep doing that, look at what worked, and just keep trying to improve on it.
Great. John, thank you so much. We are a little bit late. Again, one question, because we also have politicians here. We have the Department of Commerce, Digitization and Innovation here with us. Tell us who will become the next president of the United States.
I don't know. The Democratic convention was the last couple days, and they have some very good discussions there that I think helped Joe Biden. I think his running partner was a good pick for him. I think that gave him a lot of bonus points, and I think that's gonna be a little bit of a challenge for Trump. I think President Trump has a lot of followers still, and I think it's going to be a close race at this point. But obviously that can change. I don't know now. I don't know yet. It's going to be very interesting come November.
Yeah, we saw especially the opening with this video what was made and with a song from Bruce Springsteen, The Rising, so the
Yeah.
9/11 song. And I think they did a pretty good job, also Michelle Obama. And we are very
Yes.
excited here in Europe what is going on in the United States. John, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, nothing or not all was running smoothly, but on Friday with the CSCMP, we see us again, and then of course, I'm happy to have the speech with you. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you for having me, Ralph.
Thank you.